Today we're in New York to talk to an entrepreneur and chef who also happens to be the recipient of a Michelin star. He's also a watch collector. His name is Brad Farmerie, and today we're talking watches. So Brad, I just want to thank you first and foremost for having us in and agreeing to do this with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
If you could you tell us a little bit about your background professionally, and then we'll start to talk about the watches a little bit.
Sure. I started cooking in London around 1995. I thought I was going over there for 6 months, but 6 months turned into 9 years, and I loved it. I got to cook with amazing chefs, but the time was right to come back to New York and open my own project.
And so what was your first project?
We opened public in 2003, just down in Nolita, and it's still my baby, and got a Michelin star in 2008. Tax and Parole opened about 4 years ago, and there's a whole different spin on food, a lot of oysters, a lot of grilled meat.
So it's something that I've noticed before is that professional chefs tend to like watches. Why do you think that is?
I think some of it goes to the fact that chefs generally are working with a blank canvas. They have a white jacket, black pants. That's sort of the MO every single day. So I guess watch and tattoos these days, it's the only piece of personality that a chef gets to put on their person.
And what was your first mechanical watch?
When I got married, my wife gave me a Bell & Ross, and she grew up with watches. Her father was a collector. She had a great appreciation for watches, so she wanted to kind of, I think, bring me into the fold a little bit and give me something special.
And after the Bell & Ross, where did you go next?
Afterwards, I had a special cooking event that I was doing in Iceland, and so we had the opportunity to check out a really small watchmaker there, JS Watch Company.
Sure.
I love it. It's a four-man operation. When I call or email them, they literally call or email me right back, and it's one of the four guys. And they had only been open about 2 years when I bought this watch, and they had gotten an accidental shipment of these brushed cases, and so that's why they decided to create their version of a pilot watch. And I think they only made about 100 of them, so I sort of also accidentally got a very limited edition watch.
And so you mentioned that you received a Michelin star, and when you did you celebrate that with the watch?
I did. It was the most unbelievable thing that I've had in my career, and we feel very lucky and very proud that they bestowed us that honor. And I started thinking, as many people do, that I should get a Rolex and kind of mark that occasion and mark that moment. It also happened to be the year my son was born. So I started looking, and I actually gravitated towards the root beer nipple dial, and I wanted something from that transitional, like 81 to 88 phase. So I was looking, and my wife just couldn't understand why I was dragging my feet on it, and so she ended up buying it for me. It's what I wear probably at least 3 times a week, and it's still one of my favorite watches. I know it's very polarizing in the watch world and in the Rolex world, and some people say it looks like a used car salesman, but I think it's real rock star. Gets a lot of compliments. I love it, and as soon as I wanted a Rolex, I wanted that watch, and so I can't imagine myself wearing any other one.
Yeah, and obviously, even Rolexes, which are, you kind of see them everywhere, but at the same time, like, this is a watch that you bought for 2 very big moments in your life, and there's something special about that.
Yeah,
certainly.
and again, I love that every single day that I wear it, I look down and I remember that exact moment.
Sure. And after the Rolex, where did you head next?
After the Rolex, I was in the world of Universal. I had been doing a lot of reading and looking at them as a company and seeing the wide variety of stuff that was out there, and also wanted to look into the in-house movements. So I was checking it out, and I just kind of fell in love with this. I was looking for probably about a year and a half, 2 years. I'm a slow mover when it comes to looking. So I fell in love with this 22704, and it has a Valjoux 72 inside. So kind of like all the cool stuff that you need to be happening. I love that click so much. It's just a beautiful watch. Sort of that timeless 50s to 60s period, and that's really why I like it.
And this is a Russian watch, I think?
Yes. We opened a restaurant in Moscow about 2 years ago, and while I was over there, I got to kind of poke my head around a few watch shops, and I really like the story behind this and the idea behind this and the look of it as well. It's a Strela Seconda. These were started to be produced in '59 by the first Moscow watch factory, which was actually set up by components from 2 American factories. It went out of business during the Great Depression. One was actually just in Brooklyn, the Ansonia clock factory. And with the Great Depression, they went out of business, and Russia started shipping all those parts so that they could do a movement that's made in Russia. And so they built the 3017, and they ran that from 59 to 79. So 20 years, they only made 100,000 of them, which I think Rolex makes in about 20 days these days.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a big number, but I think the fact that they were given to military, they were given to cosmonauts, I think they had some hard usage, so it's really hard to find some good ones. Also, it sort of mirrors a lot of the Omega history. An earlier version of this was the first one to go on a spacewalk in 1965. And then almost this exact one with the paddle hands, which the one that I love, was on the 77 and 78 space missions for the Soviet Union. And I think that, again, these were mechanical watches that were meant to be used every day, and they were meant to time very important, very exact things, a lot like the Omega, where there's really no room for error. So
right.
People have called the mechanics of it crude, but I think, at the end of the day, it got them into space and got them back. So it can't really be that crude.
Yep. And then the final watch we see here is a System 51.
Yes.
So why this when you have all these other great mechanical watches here?
I think some of my love and some of my pleasure that comes out of watches is the actual mechanics of it. I did study to be a mechanical engineer and appreciate technology, both old and new. And I think that hearing and reading about this watch and how far watchmaking has come to do something like this got me very interested. And so I kind of became obsessed about reading a little bit more about it. And so I finally just pulled the trigger, and actually I wanted a white one because I wear it in the kitchen all the time. It's very light, it's very resistant to sweat. It's almost always 110 degrees in the kitchen every single day. So I wanted something that could hold up to that heat, but also, white with a white chef jacket looks kind of cool. And and also, strangely, I probably get more compliments on this watch than a lot of my other ones. I think, draws people's eye to it. You tell them a quick version of the story, and people kind of can't believe that this is even happening and that they didn't know more about it.
So you are, I would say, a particular guy. You once told me that you have 4 different kinds of ice behind the bar here.
Yes, we do.
And why do you do that?
I think there's a proper ingredient for every occasion. We win awards here for our food, we win awards here for our cocktails, and that's because we're very particular, and that if something's not right, it has to be changed until it's perfect. So I feel that way behind the bar, I feel that way in the kitchen, and I feel that in the front of the house as well.
And so does that kind of translate into your watch collection? Is there something here that maybe isn't perfect that you'd like to change? Is there something you'd like to add to the collection?
I think Nomos is definitely on my list for a next one. I want the in-house movement, and I want that kind of new generation, I guess, of watchmaker, and that, I guess, new philosophy of affordability yet functionality and in-house movements. I think it's a pretty cool package in one watch, and I think that's going to be next on my list. Funnily, the ones that are on the high end of the spectrum financially are really not the ones that talk to me that much. It's sort of more the tool function watches that speak to me, and I think that's probably the range I'm going to stay in, because that's the ones that I really appreciate and that's the ones that I love.